Here are some more important facts on the riots in England as we try to peel back the layers and look at the root causes rather than merely regard the scintillating burning leaves at the end of the branches. So almost half the black children in Britain are being raised by single parents. A quarter of all youngsters live in one-parent families. This is 3 times what it was in 1972, according to the Office for National Statistics. The biggest percentage of lone parent households is among black ethnic groups. 48% of the black Caribbean families have one parent, as do 36% of black African households. Compare this to Indians 10%, Bangladeshis 12%, Pakistanis 13%, Chinese 15%, and whites 22%. 9 out of 10 single-parent families in the UK are headed by mothers, and children who grew up without their biological father are more likely to be unemployed, commit crimes, and leave education early, and to get pregnant as a teenager. Now, in some of the worst pockets of unemployment in London, up to a third of the adult population are living off government benefits. ONS data show how nationally the number of never-worked households has nearly doubled, from 184,000 to 352,000 since the election of the first Blair government in 1997. And if you grew up in a household where you have not seen your parents or many other adults perhaps work, you are much less likely to be successful in trying to get a job or trying to keep a job. How does England compare to the rest of the EU? Well, England has the most lone parents of any major European nation. 1 in 15 homes in the UK is headed by a lone woman with children. Only little tiny Estonia has a higher percentage. This analysis was done by the European Union's statistical arm, Eurostat, and it's revealed that Britain's tax and benefit system is much more heavily biased against traditional 2-parent families than any other country in the Western world. So if you are married with kids and you have one parent earning, you face a tax burden nearly 40% higher than is typical in the developed world and 20% higher than the average EU tax bill. So in the UK, only 1 in 5 homes is occupied by couples with children. So 9 out of 10 couples face a tax and benefit penalty worth more than £100 a week if they live together. So in other words, they are £100 a week better off if they live apart. This is what I mean when I say that this is a tax farm where the livestock are breeding and living to some degree, to some significant degree, according to tax regulations from the government. So why is there such a problem with these local youths and the police? Well, let's look at the figures for deaths in police custody since 1998. There have been at least 333 deaths in police custody, and not a single conviction of any police officer for any of them. The Police Complaints Authority stated that, quote, a disproportionate number of people who die in custody or specifically following restraint are from minority ethnic groups, which inevitably leads to allegations of racism. So in England, 2/5 of those who are unemployed are under 25. In other words, 1 in 5 young men under the age of 25 in the UK is unemployed. And the other thing that we've noticed from the Middle East is that food prices often lead to political and civil unrest and riots. We saw this in Egypt and other Middle Eastern countries. Food prices in the UK have risen 3 times more than the G7 average. So this is the background. I'm not trying to imply that every rioter is completely excused from his or her behavior. Of course not.
Marcus Dow is in Croydon. Marcus Dow, are you shocked by what you've seen there last night?
No, not at all. I have been living in London for 50 years. There are so many different moves and moments. But what I was certain about, listening to my grandson and my son, is that something very, very serious was going to take place in this country. Our political leaders had no idea. The police had no idea. But if you looked at young blacks and young whites with a discerning eye and a careful hearing, they have been telling us, and we would not listen, that what is happening in this country to them.
Mr. Howe, if I can just stop you, Mr. Howe, for a moment. You say you're not shocked. Does this mean that you condone what happened in your community last night?
I condone, of course not. What I'm going to condone it for, what I'm concerned about more than anything else, there is a young man called Mark Duggan. He has parents, he has brothers, he has sisters, and few yards away from where he lives, a police officer blew his head off.
Well, Mr. Howe, we have to...
Let me finish.
Mr. Howe, we have to wait for the official inquiry before we can say things like that. We don't know what happened to Mr. Duggan. We are going to wait for the police report on it. If I can take you on a little bit, you were talking about your grandson, you were talking about young people. You were talking about your grandson, you were talking...
They have been stopping and searching young blacks for no reason at all. I have a grandson, he's an angel, and he began to think he was coming of age when the police slapped him up against the wall and searched him, and he thought he had now had a gold star. I asked him the other day, apropos of a sense that something was going seriously wrong in this country. I said, how many times have the police searched you? He said, Papa, I can't count. There's so many times.
Mr. Howe, that may well have happened, and if you say it did, I am not to gainsay you, but that is not an excuse to go out rioting and cause the sort of damage that we have been seeing over the last few days.
Where were you in 1981 in Brixton? I don't call it rioting, I call it an insurrection of the masses of the people. It is happening in Syria, it is happening in Clapham, it's happening in Liverpool, it's happening in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and that is the nature of the historical moment.
Mr. Howe.
It might be an issue.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Thursday, August 11th, 2011. I'm Darko. This is part 2 of the news bulletin for today. GGNonline.com is my website. GGNonline.com. DDarko2012 is my YouTube channel, or you can check out Global Government News on Facebook. I'm going to keep moving here because I have a lot of news to get to still in the remaining 8 minutes of this video. Death of 3 Muslims spur public outrage. Police in Britain's second largest city of Birmingham face public outrage after suspicious death of 3 Muslims that were run down by a car when trying to protect their fellow community members during the persisting unrest. Then we move on to father of slain Muslim pleads for UK racial peace. So Mr. Jahan has yet to bury his son, one of the 3 Pakistani men run down and killed this week as they tried to guard family shops. And it says here that racists want mosques burnt in unrest. So Britain's Islamic Human Rights Council has warned that far-right groups seek to use unrest as an opportunity to burn down mosques and stage a race war. Next up, Tottenham riots. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but police stood back and let protesters take over the streets. So police faced criticism yesterday for their handling of the Tottenham riots before and after the violence broke out. So there you go, just covering it again. But why were police so soft on London looters? They were ordered to stand by and observe as the Capitol burned. So they wanted this to happen. So what? So they can clamp down. Problem, reaction, solution. So there you go. UK riots. Insurers will pay claims, then recover money from police. Britain's police forces could face a bill of tens of millions of pounds from insurance companies because property was damaged in the rioting, while the police effectively failed to keep law and order. Then England riots. Cameron says police admit to wrong tactics and says they had their tactics wrong, and he said that he announced measures to help homeowners and business recover property, which is what they were doing, I guess. Child looters rampage, how rioters as young as 9 pillaged Manchester City. So you also have these guys going on there too. More pictures are all got their faces covered up. It says here it's paycheck time for the looters. Police snatch squads swoops on homes of riot suspects in a string of pre-dawn raids across London. Youth paraded through the street and bundled into police van. You know, bundled means hogtied. So there you go. Next up, we have 3 steps that will transform our police. So forces can save money and get more boots on the streets to deal with the riots. So that's why there's such a problem, because there's not enough government. See, that's the solution. To bring more boots on the ground, you need more police on every street and every corner, right? That's why there was those problems. It's not a problem or issue of society or anything, or too much government. Scottish riot police to tackle England unrest, so they're going to send some forces to help out. It says here, in the Twitter era, authorities must adapt or struggle. So it says here that allowing rumors from riots to bank failures to spread at lightning speed, politicians, businessmen, governments must adapt fast. So says here, David Cameron proposes banning UK riot suspects from social media. So, this thing was set up by DARPA and the CIA and that, and front companies for them specifically so they can keep dibs on people. And so they don't want the slaves going out there and using their weapon, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, like I'm using, against them, to call them out as the bastards that they are, the globalist bastards that they are, pushing their agenda further and further day by day. So, like the Google revolution, they call her Facebook and Egypt. Now they have a reason to crack down. So they allow things like this to occur so they can crack down. And anyone that's going to use Facebook for a group, like that guy that was going to do a quote, he called it a flash mob, but it wasn't, in front of the Federal Reserve to protest. And they had police all around the Federal Reserve building unmask the thugs, so looters will no longer be able to cover up. So that's the new step. Facial recognition in use after the riots. So there you go. Now Scotland Yard is updating the face matching program while you have your mask off now. See, you like that? So when you're trying to protest like the G20 or the G8 or anything like that. It says here, London riots, water cannons to be used on a sick society. So they were sick. That's the problem with them. Rioters could be sprayed with dye, says Cameron, and they're talking about the purple rain that was used back in '89. If these thugs want a war, let them send in the army. So there you go. The slaves are calling for it, exactly what they're going to get. U.S. military is planning for London-like riots. And then we have report terrorists kill Syrian civilian, and Syrian troops storm town near Turkish border and kill at least 11. So the strike on Syria is technically feasible, former French general says. That's the new target. Like Libya is Syria now. Iran MP urges pro-Syria front against the United States. Then U.S. poised to call for Syria's Assad to go. So here we go. Rhetoric. Israel prepares for clashes with Syria. Then Syria envoy draws parallels with Britain riots, calling them the same thing. And it says here, Iran-Turkey relations rapidly improving. Russia mauls visa ban on U.S. officials amid the growing tension between Moscow and Washington. Then Israel commander orders sudden drill. And Israel caves, erecting 1,600 illegal units in Al-Quds. Jerusalem. EU reinforces sanctions on Libya. Then Then the Western governments are helping this National Transitional Council to prepare a blueprint for post-Gaddafi world. The NATO urged to investigate civilian deaths during Libya airstrikes. U.S.-led forces killed 4 Afghan police, 168 Pakistani kids killed by U.S. airstrikes in the past 7 years. U.S. relies on contractors in Somali conflict. That's right, ex-CIA trained forces. And Nigeria says that the mosque and churches are going to be monitored for inflammatory preaching, and they have to undergo screening and get clearance for them before preaching. Then lastly, was the CIA behind Operation Fast and Furious?